we are talking about history, I'll start by saying once upon a time, Delhi had better traffic. Sorry about this. So, welcome everyone to Exchange for Media Women Summit. Congratulations, Karan, for pulling this off year after year after year and giving women the importance that they deserve in a man's world called media. I remember walking into the Hindustan Times and I was a journalist and I was told, what are you doing here? There are no women here. But today we have three women who come from very traditional historical backgrounds and are working towards something which might be very new for you, but it's something which deserves an acknowledgement. So I'd like to introduce Maharani Shailja Katoj from Kangra, Lambragaon. Kangra is, you all know, it's a state which also links back to, I think there's lineage with Alexander the Great as well. It's the oldest kingdom in the world. They are the founders of Pahari miniatures, which they still cherish. Shailaja comes from a family of Sailana, which they are called the father of Indian culinary history. And they live in Kangra, and she's keeping the Sansar Chand Museum alive, as well as running a school. We have Ritu, the Kavrani of Jammu and Kashmir. They have a beautiful, of course, Dr. Karan Singh has personified the history and the legacy of that state. They are Dogra kings who once ruled right up till Afghanistan. Ritu runs a school in Jammu and also looks after Hari Mahal, which is their hotel. It's a beautiful hotel as well as, and it's in the same compound as their library, which amongst many things houses the Nal Damayanti series of miniature art. Again, a form of art patronized by the family. Welcome, Ritu. We have Mahima here, Bikaner, one of the oldest kingdoms, the most beautiful city, possibly the most visited city, and I would call it the lesser known gem of Rajasthan. Mahima is the princess of Bikaner. She has been working very closely with her sister, her younger sister, who's MLA from there, and Siddhi and she have created a beautiful museum for poshaks and clothes that the family once wore and possessed. So I'd like to start with Shailaja, who's more than anything keeping the culinary history of her family alive, both Sailana and Kangra. Kangra cooks for almost 5,000 people together in the village. And so tell us a little bit about your culinary history and how are you keeping it alive and the trials and tribulations of keeping a legacy alive.
So when I got married from Madhya Pradesh to Himachal, it was a very different culture in terms of clothes, food, language, roles of women. I came from a home where parda system was prevalent at the age of 16. Till the age of 16, I have seen the parda system prevalent in Madhya Pradesh, in my hometown in Sailana. From there, when I got married in Kangra, which is a Himachal state, women were very empowered there. I mean, the first question asked to me, I'm a student of economic honors, and I was asked, now what do you want to do professionally? You want to study further? You want to be an IS officer? What do you want to do? So it was shocking for me, and I didn't know because I was not brought up to think from a career point of view. My mother-in-law fought elections, she was a cabinet minister. My grandmother-in-law self-taught herself a number of foreign languages, and she held her own panchayat in the palace, where people used to come to her to judge feuds. And so, when I got married, it was a complete eye-opener. And what really impressed me, of course, the history and everything, was the culinary richness of the area. Pure vegetarian. Every time there was some kind of a celebration, a birth, a death, a wedding or something, the whole village used to be invited. and they used to give a dham, which was cooked by Brahmins called botis. And I'm from I was born in a family where non-vegetarian was very, very strong. But I'm a vegetarian under the influence of my mother. And so for me, tasting this wide variety of vegetarian food which is being served to a whole village, a whole town, and there were about 11 to 13 dishes which were being served, and each dish was different. It was unique, and it was very tasty. And whether you were rich or poor, everybody sat together and it had a meal as a community, irrespective of your caste, creed, your money, your background. Everybody was same in the eyes of the Raja, the ruling family. So, when my husband decided to open the museum, Maharaja Sansar Chand Museum at the Kangra Fort, I promoted the Himachali cuisine through the museum. And then Anshu, of course, tasted it, and through Kitchen of the Kings, and we just collaborated and took it to the whole country. And so that is how my culinary journey in Kangra started. And of course, Selana, my grandfather wrote a book called Cooking Delights of the Maharajas. It's a collection of recipes from all over the country. There are recipes from Kashmir, there are recipes from Bikaner, there are recipes from Jodhpur, from Nepal, from everywhere. And he has collected it from the royal households and put it together in a book called Cooking Delights of the Maharajas. So my brother being very, very young, I being the eldest daughter, I took it forward, and again Anshu and Royal Fables and Kitchen of the Kings, these are platforms, who helped us take it forward and encourage us.
Mahima, I'd like to ask you, I mean, you come from Bikaner. Your father, Maharaja Narendra Singh Ji, was very fond of promoting dairy in the region, and also a very caring, ruler, and much loved. But you also grew up in a very traditional setup. And so tell me a little bit of how it felt to be the Princess of Bikaner and the roles you played there, and how they've helped you in your life going forward. Your father, the traditional family. So you've often shared with me that you had a very traditional upbringing.
Yeah, very traditional upbringing given by my grandmother. My mother was very orthodox also. Coming from Bikaner, my grandmother.
Mike. Yeah.
It's okay, just put the mic.
Put the mic. Yeah. Yeah. Put the mic. Okay. So that's okay. Talk about your family. Tell us a little bit about Bikaner.
Yeah. So my father actually was an animal lover. He loved cows, dogs, Great Danes, everything. And he was also being nominated and given an award for the Animal Puraskar. I think it's called the Gai Sanakshak award, which has been given to him. He is actually the Kishan Kanaya of Bikaner. He actually was the one who actually promoted the Rati Gai's culture. In Bikaner, we only have Rati Gais, which are actually eating the charas and everything, which is localized in Bikaner. And the milk is only done by the Rati Gai because of the food, what she's eating in Bikaner. Coming from a background of Bikaner, which happens to be Marudhar, it's supposed to be like there is no grasslands or whatever. So they believed in growing the chara. It's called savai ghas. So they used to eat only that and cultivate that which was available in the city itself. So they never went outside for fodder and stuff like that. So whatever was being grown in Bikaner was being fed to the cows, which was actually dry ghas. And it's called the savai ghas. And that's how the milk was being made. And it has a very peculiar taste, because the food what the cows are eating in Bikaner. So that's why it's called the American Rati Gai. And the milk is very famous.
Wow. And your grandfather was a legendary ruler.
Absolutely.
Talk about him. Yeah. I mean,
My grandfather, Dr. Karni Singh Ji, was a member of parliament. I mean, actually, he worked and served for the country for 25 years. And he was actually a great shooter of trap and skeet. He actually was the one who brought shooting to our country. He actually even held a lot of Olympics and stuff like that. He was awarded, and he also took the flag on that Olympic walk. I think he was the main person who was behind everything to expose Bikaner onto the planet, to the world actually. Trap and skeet was never there, you know. After my grandfather, everybody started to join in. So for me, my grandfather was the trap and skeet shooter, absolutely from an independent, he was a parliamentarian. He actually loved his, loved Bikaner, communicating with the local people, hanging out with the local people, learning their problems, solving it, and bringing it to the parliament to even execute those problems which were there.
So what was it like for you to be in Bikaner, and what is it that you have, how have you contributed to the Bikaner's?
You know, right now I'm looking at some documentation of the heritage sites which we are promoting, trying to promote and bring them into the public knowledge. And also there's a very, very old Anup Sanskrit library which we are trying to digitize and also promote, because Sanskrit is supposed to be the oldest possible language, you know, and everybody
Beautiful.
doesn't know how to read Sanskrit. So if we are not going to bring it out in the open to the real world, all the manuscripts and everything and the farmans, the Baha'i files are now going to be communicating to the world with the digitization. And we are promoting Sanskrit library in a very big way because I want the Sanskrit library to be shown. It's like our ancestors' oldest Sanskrit library alive. Wow. So I think I take a lot of pride in that.
So to the audience, I'd like to add that there is very little or no support from the government. There is very little or no support from the corporate world. All this is done by these ladies and their families because they have a legacy to preserve, and I think they deserve a big round of applause for this.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Amazing.
I mean, I also didn't know Mahima was doing this. It's amazing. Ritu is a powerhouse. She's a leader. She's the founding chairperson of FICCI, runs a school, runs a hotel. So she will tell us, and she's a Punjabi married amongst Rajputs, which is very rare. And she's fitted in like a hand in glove. So please tell us about your journey.
Thank you so much, Anshu. It's so wonderful to be with such beautiful, empowered women. Each one of us has a narrative that contributes to the empowerment and the woman of India today. I call it the Badalta Bharat. And all of us have a huge role to play because we are balancing the act of, you know, holding traditions. A huge responsibility comes by virtue of just being sometimes somebody's daughter or daughter-in-law, a mother, a wife, a sister. The roles that we women have to play sometimes, Anshu, can be very taxing, you know. And with that comes pressure, you know. So just to be comfortable in your skin and to have your family support what you do, I think is a huge, huge big one, you know. And I have to say that, you know, talking about how I fitted in to the royal family of Jammu and Kashmir, it's a very interesting story. When anybody asks me, when I travel anywhere overseas, within the country, people ask me, where are you from? And I tend to sing the national anthem because I'm not a pure Punjabi either. I'm half Maharashtrian. So it's really interesting. I'm half Maharashtrian, half Punjabi, married to a half Dogra, half Nepalese. So when my children go, you know, around telling people, you know, I'm from Jammu, somebody says, I've studied here. They say, okay, where are you from? You look kind of Nepalese. You've got a bit of Nepalese, you know, genes in you. And he said, yes, my dadi was from Nepal, you know. But funnily enough, Anshu, what happens in our Indian customs, and I love our customs. I'm not a rebel, but I also like to carve a niche for my own self and for the women in the future to come, for generations. So holding your own is extremely important. You know, most Indian women, the gotra changes once you get married, right? I was 19 at the time, and I was like, I think like plasticine, very easily moldable. At today, or maybe even 20 years ago, had I got a chance to marry the love of my life, I would have not been able to adjust as I have at the age of 19. Having said that, I've been raised by two wonderful people. My parents are my, whatever, I think they're my, that was my Janam Bhumi, you know. And my Karam Bhumi became my husband's home, which is Jammu, where I live now. And I've lived for the last 35 years, very, very beautifully and very organically. I belong to my in-laws, who my father-in-law, Dr. Maharaja Karan Singh Ji, is one of the most erudite, forward-thinking Hindus that are alive today. He was raised in a very patriarchal society. By the time my mother-in-law, she was just 13 when she got married to him. It was a very, very strong, staunch patriarchal system that she got married into. By the time I came into the family, my mother-in-law, because of her own personal experiences, not so very happy, made sure that her daughters-in-law and her daughters were not subjected to half the pressures that she was subjected to. So for me, things became very easy. It was easier for me to sort of, let me just say, fit in, And the beauty of my journey with my husband was that both of us were just best friends. We grew up in a boarding school called Lawrence School, Sanar, which had a fantastic value set. It said, send him to Sanar and make a man of him. So one is a school that I studied in. It has a huge, huge, huge role to play in my life, and it kind of molded me into the human being I am today. And the other is a school that I resonated with the motto very much, Delhi Public Schools. And the motto there says service before self. So both these mottos together, I think, pretty much describe who I am and what I believe in very strongly. Is A, you must always believe in your own personal self. Have the courage to dream, have the courage to aspire. Don't rebel. You don't have to be loudly rebelling about anything, but if you strongly believe in something, I think you should definitely wear that on your sleeve, on your heart, everywhere. In Jammu, I have been able to, I've been very fortunate, Anshu, to have been blessed to come into the Dogra royal family and to have adjusted to every custom that is expected of me. But education is a key. It is education and health. Personally, I feel are keys to progression and keys to modern India and the future. Your generations depend on you, and the future generations are who we are educating. And we're educating them in a very sensitive manner, because I've made sure, I've always fought for our region. I'm very proud to be a so-called now a proper Jammuite, and I'm very proud to say I'm from Jammu and Kashmir. My ancestors, like you just mentioned, Anshu, they were warriors, and Maharaja Gulab Singh Ji actually was able to capture a lot of the northern continent, the northern part of India, going up to Baluchistan and Gilgit and whatever. He conquered, he was a warrior. And then, of course, slowly, our state became smaller and smaller. Now it's come down to a union territory, very difficult for us to sort of live in that situation, but you just have to, I guess, go with the times. So education, yes, we pay. Maharaja Pratap Singh Ji, my husband's ancestor, was actually instrumental in giving Jammu Kashmir its entire education fabric, The whole fabric of education was given by him, Sir Pratap Singh, he was known as. So all the universities, the colleges, the schools, all of them were really constructed by Maharaja Pratap Singh Ji, followed by Maharaja Hari Singh Ji later. And then, of course, my father-in-law is so renowned as an education, he's one of the most educated, highly educated, human beings that I know of. So yes, Delhi Public School is what I started 30 years ago, and today we have had the privilege to celebrate. We celebrated our 30th year last year, and we've had alumni that ranges from top positions in government, great entrepreneurs, self-made individuals, politicians, name it, very successful. And the new generation is also turning out to be more and more successful. So we've got a great alumni, and we're continuing to, sort of educate them. But we've put in all our old Indian customs almost mandatory for all our children at school in DPS. It doesn't run like the Delhi public, Delhi would run. It runs like Delhi public, Jammu should run. So your roots are very important. And at Jammu, we believe in, our day starts with yoga, meditation, Sanskrit. I was so happy to hear by Annie just now. She just said, that she has this alive library, which I would love to visit because we promote Sanskrit hugely. We also have gotten Dogri, and thanks to my father-in-law and the family, we've actually managed to bring it out as a language now, which is recognized in the Indian Constitution. It's become a language, that you have to sort of recognize. So Dogri is something we teach. We teach foreign languages as well. But somehow I wanted our kids at school to really, really be rooted, Anshu. It's very important to understand your roots and your traditions and not move away from that terribly.
True.
You
So
know?
we are talking about roots here.
Yeah, it's an identity,
Yeah.
that they
So
hold.
I'll throw a question to Mahima and you, but first to you, Shailja. Both of you have a family museum, and both of you, all three of you, have a city. You live in a city. You've ruled a city which is on the tourist map. So, as a woman, how have you contributed towards supporting the? I have to say, your museum, Junagadh, right?
The fort.
The fort.
Yes.
And the museum.
Yes.
I think it is the most, I would tell you to go there and see. It is prettier than any fort I have seen. The frescoes, the works, and also the museum that you and your sister have brought alive. And for you, the Pahari Miniature Museum. So first you tell us, this was brought alive by you and your husband. So tell us a little bit about the Sansar Chand Museum and the legacy it carries.
Okay, so the museum is adjoining the Kangra fort, which is the oldest dated fort in India. It was considered to be a dead fort, other than our Kuldevi's temple. Nobody used to visit it. Dharamshala was on the tourist map, but it was because of His Holiness the Dalai Lama. So my husband and I, we decided that if tourists are coming for Buddhism, why not our history, our culture as original inhabitants of the area? So we decided to start the museum and start audio guides at the fort and the museum, done by Narrowcasters, which is an Australian company. They're fantastic audio guides. And soon, now at the present time, the tourist whoever comes to Dharamshala, the Kangra Fort and Museum is as important as visiting His Holiness and the Buddhist monuments. So that is what.
That needs an applause
and
for sure.
it's a work.
That needs an applause for sure.
Thank
Absolutely.
you.
Yeah, fantastic.
So this is that's what we did, and it's a work in progress. It's a work in progress. People from all over the world come now, and we are able to showcase our history, our culture, our paintings, our forts to the world.
Tell us a little bit about Junagadh, and I would tell all of you to make your next holiday there.
Yeah.
And also both of you, Siddhi and you, brought that museum together. So
I would say about Junagadh Fort, it holds the history of my home, which is called Bikaner. It was built by Bikaji. It's around 500 years old. Basically, it has all the documents, the armory, the culture, what the Raja Maharajas used to be fighting. The armors are there, the weapons are there. The Bikaji's small little bed was there, which showcases actually during the war, if the bed is going to be very big, the Raja might be killed, So he had a very, very small bed to sleep on, where he used to carry the bed everywhere, wherever he used to go. So in order to save himself, he made a very, very small bed, Even that is there, and that's being preserved. So we have the throne also where all the Rajas and the Maharajas and my great-grandparents, grandfathers were all, the coronation used to happen over there. There's lots to see actually. We have a very beautiful marble chalk where the grandparents and everybody, the local community also used to join in to celebrate all the functions like Gangaur festival was joined in by the local people. We have the oldest Gangor and Isarji's festival, which happens in Bikaner. All the families used to get together with the local community to play Holi in the fort. A lot of possessions like, we have all the festivities are being done in the fort. So there are a lot of things which people can actually learn, And now we are trying to make it as what you said very nicely, that we're trying to do a visual thing. We're trying to put the headphones thing, digitalize it, and bring it forward. I mean, for the local people, as well as to put it on the international thing for people to see. Junagadh is history. And Junagadh has, the thing is completely preserved. We're trying our level best to maintain it.
Also the Poshak Museum, which has got all the costumes. The brides in Bikaner come from equally illustrious families. And I think your Nani was from Dungarpur. No.
My grandmother was from Dungarpur. My Nani Sahukam was from Chamba.
And your
So
mother?
I have both the cultures, in me, of Chamba as well as Bikaner. The Prachina Museum actually holds the historical ancient poshaks of all the Rani and Mahani Sahibas, which used to wear for their traditional things, whether it was Gangor, whether it was Shadi. All the old garments have been restored and they've been put up so that the people can actually see the original garments which are being worn by the women. And the interesting part is, in the museum itself, if you go there is a very, very beautiful section, where all the gods and the goddesses were also dressed up. So you have also the poshaks of the gods and goddesses in the ancient time, which has also been showcased over there. So it's actually a great job done by my sister.
I'd really like to ask, there's a legacy to keep and a history to maintain. And it's most important to you as a family, much more, I think, even than the government or the tourism department. What are the struggles of keeping your own legacy alive? I'll start with you, and each one of you must tell us, how tough is it to keep a legacy of a family alive with your own resources, with your own thinking, and your own effort?
When we started restoring the museum, there was a political figure in Himachal who didn't like my mother-in-law. So he manipulated the Archaeological Survey of India in such a way, and he ensured that the museum was broken 3 times. So we renovated it, and it was broken. And we renovated it, was broken. So then my husband, he put the museum on my name because I was related to the political figure. And then it was very difficult for him to actually fight me, because then in our families, there's a lot of honor and shame, and so the family members all put the pressure that now you're going to do this to your grandniece. How can you trouble your grandniece? And that is how the museum, we were able to finally get it going. And but there is no support from the government. We have to get the revenues, generate revenues through tourism, and a lot of times put money out of our own pockets, because we are preservers of our, of our culture, of our heritage. And if we don't do it, it's going to finish. I remember Dr. Karan Singh once telling me that if the language of an area finishes, that's the first step towards the heritage, the culture, everything finishing. So we are actually the custodians. If we don't do it, the next generation is not going to do it. And before we know it, the name of the family is finished. And India is history. We have a very, very rich history. And every area has, you go anywhere in our country. We were just there in Chennai and with Royal Fables, and it was, it had so much history in it, as in the city, around the city, that, I want to go back with my whole family and show them around, So India is full of history and culture, and us, the old families, if we don't take the initiative, then it's going to finish. and then India is going to lose its essence.
I totally agree with you, Shalja. You know, Anshu, as custodians, as Shalja rightly said, we have a huge sense of responsibility, and I think we are also very sensitive to this very point that you've raised. Uh, you know, the challenges that we face is, first of all, I think, very importantly, if we had government support, you know, which I think this particular government is working towards many, many schemes. There are many things that this government is doing, and we need to avail of those schemes, first of all. Second of all, I feel that, you know, with globalization happening, the authenticity of original things is losing its ground, you know, because you have copies, you've got, you know, people are not understanding the beauty of deep-rooted heritage and history that comes out of all our states.
Absolutely.
You know, and something that all our forefathers and our grandfathers and our grandmothers-in-law or grandmothers spent years preserving and patronizing, you suddenly find that, okay, is there a disconnect between the generation next? So the challenge is also, you know, being faced by us is with the next generation, the lack of knowledge or awareness. So that's where I think we guys have to play a very, very, very big role and a major role, and not sort of divert from that. We need to get the younger generation hugely involved, you know. They need to be aware. Awareness is something I feel, Anshu, lack of awareness leads to lots and lots of problems. I mean, when you go abroad, I mean, a simple thing when you go to, say, I'm just giving you a very, very small example. If you were to go to Windsor Castle, okay, as against coming to one of my, you know, old palaces or forts, look how well they're preserved. Just look, you pay a certain fee, you don't park your cars so many 100 meters away from the Windsor Castle. There are rules. You don't touch, you don't spit. Here you go to our old castles, and we have this most beautiful place in Aknoor, near Jammu, where Maharaja Gulab Singh Ji was, you know, coronated. And his Raj Tilak was done on the banks of Aknoor. And all on the way to that beautiful fort where they say the Pandavas had once visited, and there's actual footprints of the Pandavas in that cave. It's disgusting because it's broken down. There's actually, you'll see pan spit, you know, everywhere. You'll see the walls complete. There's garbage dumps. There's heaps and heaps of plastic strewn. So no matter how many initiatives we do with the Jammu municipality, it just comes back to square one because people don't realize the simple value of what you have. They're trying to get what they don't. But at least let's start taking care of what we have. And I think here private sector, public sector involvement, and sort of, you know, people like us should actually become cultural ambassadors. Because when we become cultural, if there was like a vertical in the government which were to say that, okay, let's appoint, you know, custodians of the families to actually, you know, become cultural ambassadors to whatever, wherever they belong. It could be the smallest tikana to the biggest state. There is so much richness, you know, that to be explored. And then they sort of have a fund that will sort of support causes like ours that we want to take up. I think all of us need to get together. Anshu, maybe you can sort of crusade this and get us all together on one platform. You're already doing so much. Royal Fables is just fantastic. And the kitchens that you're doing is also absolutely phenomenal. You've been very supportive of all our families and have really taken our, craft and art and our food, our cuisine, our palaces, onto a global map. And I think we should really come together as a body and call for, some help, Anshu, because it's absolutely imperative that that happens, Yeah, and there's also a threat of heritage sites and artifacts being trafficked.
Yes.
You know about that, right? So necessitating stringent measures and global cooperation is something we really need. We really need. There's a lot of trafficking that's happening, A lot of things has gone out of the country. A lot goes everywhere, and, we can't let this happen.
So,
Yeah.
my closing remarks.
Yeah.
Anything you'd like to say, especially to a forum of women, about conservation, about role, about what women can do?
See, I see in Bikaner there are a lot of challenges which we are facing at the moment, which were always there. My grandmother, my mother and my great-grandmother, they were actually very well connected with the people who are local people of Bikaner. So they were able to be in the Parda system and yet be with the people who are women. So they had a great support system of women. So between them, the problems were actually being solved. Now, women were not being educated in Bikaner because they come from old traditional Rajput backgrounds and they were not allowed to step out. So my great-grandmother, Maharani Sudarshana Kumari ji, established a fabulous school called Maharani School, which were only based for the Rajput community children to come and study there. So that was the first initiation which my grandmother took. The second initiation was again a college, which was being again done by her. The challenges basically what we are facing at the moment is that it's lack of documentation, number one. Number two, we have such connoisseurs of art, craft, culture, artisans and everything. Their generation is not even interested in bringing it forward. And also the economic status of theirs is not very good. So they don't want to even bring out their culture in the original form because the art of ustas maybe, the original form of the usta is no longer there. They're only copies. Copies are something which is very easily made. The original ones are going to cost you a bomb because the natural dyes were all mixed with a gold ingredient, which was supposed to be the part of the enhancement. Then you have the badla work, again natural dyes to be made, hand paper to be used, the miniatures to be developed. All these things were not documented, they're not documented at all. And all our artists, who were actually the original folk singers, dancers, in the court of Maharaja Ganga Singh Ji, we used to have Man Gaiki done by Allah Julai. Her family doesn't want to be a part of it at all. And Man Gaiki was only being done in Bikaner. And that was the only thing which nobody promotes it. Nobody's even heard of Man Gaiki, which happened only in the court of Bikaner. And the person is no more. It's very difficult for us to even revive. And she was the one who performed in my mother's marriage. Only the few people were able to listen to her and promote her in her own folk things.
This is a world which is possibly very, very away from what we all do as media professionals. But I think I'd like to thank all these lovely women who have the liberty to live in Delhi like any one of us, but keep going back, all living in their cities and keeping and conserving with their own effort their culture and heritage. Thank you, Mahima. Thank you, Ritu.
Thank you so much,
Shailja. And I think they deserve a big round of applause.
And Anshu, just before we wrap up, I just written down, as I came, I was scribbling down something, and it was just like, my mind keeps racing around. So, just one little line that ultimately stay rooted, staying rooted to your traditions and be innovative in finding solutions for today's challenges. There are 4 C's: culture, creativity, commerce, and collaboration. Okay? These are the 4 keys, I feel, that will position India as a cultural superpower, and the younger generation has a significant role to play in this journey. So that's my parting shot.
Yeah. Unfortunately, we are way past the time limit allotted, almost by 11 minutes. Let me pass on a mic to you then.
Thank you so much. This was a masterclass in culture, spirituality, so much. Like, I'm really moved. I have a question, right? As PR and communications professionals here, right? How is it that we can contribute? Like, as a mother of a young teenage daughter, I'd love to come to these sites, visit, make kids come and see this. But as a media fraternity, how can we contribute to what you guys are doing, right? Because we don't even know about these things.
You can contribute by visiting India more. And when you all visit, write about it. Because people listen and read when you all write. So that will be your biggest contribution.
And collaborate. You work with
I just said those
corporates.
4, the 4
Please
C's.
collaborate and bring in
Every
more collaboration.
CSR, every ESG, every
Absolutely.
sustainability should have something on culture.
So please go
Absolutely.
to Royal Fables page and help us collaborate their stories with you all.
Absolutely. I'll give you back the mic.
Yeah, thank you.